the Leader of the Majority in the National Assembly, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, the Chair and the board members of the Institute of Internal Auditors. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The public service was supposed to open this session yesterday, and due to some unforeseen reasons, he couldn't make it, and he asked me to represent him. And I said that I would want to come here today. So also previously within the Judicial Service Commission, the head of public service was the chair of the audit committee within the judiciary. So he is very much appraised and very much aware of the discussions that are going on here today. But also, the reason perhaps also he asked me to represent him is because I have been in audit in my previous life. But that's many years ago. I was telling the chairman that I still dread to think of the audit file. And those days were not like today. I remember one time the government of President Moi woke up one day and decided that within government, both parastatals and ministries, all audit work would be done by the Kenya National Audit Office, the Auditor General. And therefore, we woke up one day for those who are working in audit firms, and especially the indigenous one like myself, and we found ourselves with 0 clients. And we now had to take any work that comes our way. I remember for the company I was working for, things were so bad that we took some work from an audit transport company. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with transport company. So they had trucks which were ferrying materials on the Mombasa-Nairobi highway. And in my audit examination, I found an item repeated so many times called Friends of the Road. I questioned, what is this? Of course, your guess is as good as mine. Who are these friends on the road? But coming from an auditor's point of view, how am I supposed to treat that as an expense? Is it a legitimate expense? But I recognized and acknowledged the honesty of those accountants who had the audacity to put such an item on their books. Now, I understand from my interaction, especially with the officials, and I want to limit myself to those areas where I think I am adding value. On the issue of the role of the internal auditor, I now probably, and this is a shock for someone who is a trained accountant like myself, and who has practiced in the industry for some time, locally and internationally, that it has never dawned on me the challenging role and place and position of the internal auditor within our corporate environment. I now realize that perhaps why I am still alive is because I was not an internal auditor. Because I think being an internal auditor should be added to the list of the 1,000 things to die. I now realize that you are, first of all, a colleague to people who prepare financial statements, to people who make financial decisions. They are your colleagues, and that is not very easy. Unlike the external auditor who will come, make his audit, and go, I acknowledge now that these people are your colleagues, and sometimes I know it can get personal. It's even worse that you report administratively, on the very least, to the accounting officers of your institutions, the CEOs. So you are presenting an audit report as an internal auditor to the Chief Executive Officer to complain about the Chief Executive Officer. And I know that is not, a very, very comfortable space to be in, and therefore, it is now clear to me, on behalf of the government, that we need to do something to really ring fence and protect and form a shield around internal auditors, whose role, again, is, first of all, unavoidable, inevitable, very, very significant. Because by the time, I think I'll borrow from the words of AG Emeritus Githu Muigai, between an internal auditor and an external auditor, what is the difference? And I'll use the analogy of Professor Muigai. I think an internal auditor is a consulting doctor, and an external auditor is a mortician. And so therefore, your role is very important, because at least you have that opportunity. Before things go completely south, you are in the organization every day. If people whom you report to would take care to listen to you and to go through your reports on a continuous basis, you will not have any problem when it comes to external audit. And so therefore, I find your role to be preventative, that we have a chance to cure because the internal auditor has pointed to these things in advance. You, as an internal auditor, is a first custodian of shareholder value, because the shareholder is not in the organization on every day. He has trusted their lives, assets, investments in the hands of management, and they are solely dependent on the internal auditor to protect shareholder value. So the same way the internal auditor protects shareholder value, I think as society, as a government, as a private sector, we also have an obligation to protect those who protect shareholder value. And it is in this regard that we've had a discussion this morning with the leader of the majority party, that I know you have an internal audit bill, and although the leader of majority has offered that this bill can actually be passed on to the finance and planning committee to take it forward, I think I would want, with profound gratitude to leader of majority, because the government is totally vested on this issue. Because you are the people in charge of internal controls, not just in, for example, ministries, like my ministry, but 348 state corporations who depend on the internal auditor to protect the shareholder value of the shareholders government of Kenya. We have said that if possible, and I'm going to consult with my brother, the CS for National Treasury, to have that bill owned by the executive, so that by the time it gets to Parliament, the leader of majority party then will have an easier time to pass that bill. For those who don't know, government bills take priority. If a committee bill is second priority, and a private member's bill that priority, but there are also people who send petitions to Parliament as mwananchi. That is fourth priority in that particular order. So to be able to raise the profile and the priority of this very important piece of legislation, as an executive, we are going to strive to present it to Parliament, so that now the leader of the majority party is obligated to give it the priority that it deserves. I think that will go a long way to protect, the praise and role of internal auditor, and to signal to everybody that the government of Kenya does take the issue, the role of the internal auditor seriously. The second point is on the issue. I'm turning to where I am coming from the government side, from the public service. We are going to, and I'm going to take up this personally with the State Corporations Advisory Committee, and also from my own ministry, that even before we have that piece of legislation, we will require that all internal audit reports for all ministries and all parastatals will be sent in 2 copies. One copy to the management and another copy to the National Treasury simultaneously. What that will do is that the National Treasury will be seized of what is happening. They will have an advance copy of the internal audit reports before you sit in a corner and you have some daily negotiations to amend this and change that. And I think that will go a long way to send a message to the accounting officers, both from the ministries and state corporations, that you cannot doctor internal audit reports. Now, it will shock you that for the entire government, over 60% of ministries and parastatals, they have qualified accounts reports. It's shocking. Only 40% of ministries and parastatals are getting unqualified audit reports. And this is unacceptable. It is an indictment, first of all, of the internal auditor. Because by the time we go all the way to get qualified audit reports by external auditors, by Kenau, where is the internal auditor? I think this is an area where they are complicit, and that's why we are saying we will want to see, is it that the internal auditor raised those issues and they were ignored, or what is it? So I think we will, government of Kenya will lead by example. We're going to tighten the nose on this issue of qualified reports. And for us to do that, we will depend heavily on the role and the reports coming from our internal auditors, because the head of public service has instituted a government-wide program known as Zero Audit Issues, which we want to achieve by the close of the financial year 2024-2025. It is also, I being the minister in charge of performance contracting, it is also one of the audit reports are part of the performance contracts. So you get a low score if you get negative audit reports. And so therefore we are going to follow it up, not just on the performance management and how we measure it, but also to have some consequence for it, because consequence management is a very important tool for managing audits, including internal audits. Finally, your role as internal auditors becomes doubly difficult if you don't fix the issue of corporate governance. I know auditors, internal auditors, I'm aware you report to the audit committees within the board. So if the internal audit committees within the board, if the audit committees within the board, if they are the same people who are running all over the organization, waking you up to make tea and mandazi in the morning, when they are supposed to have a hands-off, approach to let management run it, then who are you as an internal auditor? Because it is complete conflict of interest for these people to continue running this day. That's why I am issuing this warning to. We are going to work together from my office, from the Office of the Head of Public Service, where the State Corporation Advisory Committee is, at least for the public sector, we will enforce strictly the number of meetings as provided for within the relevant regulations and rules and the laws. I'm finding now some boards are meeting, 12 times. 12 times in a month. You find a board is meeting. You wonder, is that a board or its management? I think soon, and very soon, we are going to install cameras in all the government places. It is true. First of all, they enhance security. Second thing, I'll be able to pick that footage and ask a board member, do you think I should be changing your job description and call you, co-CEO, because what we are now is a co-CEO, because we really have to respect the principles for corporate governance if the role of the internal auditor is going to be. So, in a summary, ladies and gentlemen, the government of Kenya is committed, is aware, is appreciative and cognizant of the role of the internal auditors. We will work together to protect the role and the dignity of internal auditors, supporting the internal audit bill, and we look forward to working with you, both in the public sector and the private sector, to tighten the screws of corporate governance so we can have better corporations, a better government, and a better society. Thank you very much.